My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk And action. Hey everyone, Perry had a question about stuffy nose and what to do with it, especially in September with the weather change, temperature dropping. You'll have a different set of allergens all over, especially in Chicago. You know, I just came back from Colorado, and in Colorado I was okay, but as soon as we started to descend here in Illinois, my nose started to get stuffy. Or itchy. And again, this morning I have a lot of issues with stuffy nose, itchy eyes, stuff like that. Anyway, I'll talk about why nose rinsing is important. But if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. So I do have videos on stuffy nose. I'll put the links down below. However, I really think that when I ask my allergy sufferers about what they do with clearing out the nose, most of the folks that I see will usually say I blow my nose at night. And that's fine. Dry blowing with a Kleenex is not enough though. So I used to be very into car engines, and I would have this really high-end air filter. They're called K&Ns. And the air filter, actually, you can use it over and over again instead of throwing it out. If you've ever changed your air filter in your car or in your vacuum or in your house, you'll see that after a while it just accumulates a lot of dust on one side. It would be nice if you can just move the dust and the stuff from that it's captured on off into the trash and just use it again. But you run the risk of inhaling that crap while you're kind of getting it out. And plus, you also will probably destroy the filter. So it's just cheaper and easier to get a new filter. But for the same reason, when if you look inside the nose has these tiny little hairs. They're tiny little hairs that sit like this, so that when the flow of air comes through with its particulates, it gets stuck in the hairs. And the hairs have a little bit of mucus on them, because the hairs that come from the lining of the nose, the lining has mucus cells that secrete mucus, and it falls down the hair, and the hair is naturally sticky. So when those particulates in the air come through, they'll capture on the nose hairs and stay in there until you can have an overwhelming amount of force, like a sneeze, to move the air, the particulates that have been captured out. So kind of like blowing an air filter or a car filter or whatever filter you have. There's another way where you just blow, you take forced air and you blow out and move all that stuff on the captured side, if you can imagine that. Again, if the filter will tolerate it. So paper filters won't tolerate that. However, if you're talking about live nasal hair and just dry blowing like that, you'll force some of the particulates out, but not all of them. And the problem is when you have these hairs that are sitting on, or at least working their magic, if you have one or two little particulates that you're super allergic to, eventually the particulates will make it to the lining, and they'll start to irritate the lining, because the body and the lining of the nose will start to see or recognize that say mold has been captured. It's starting to irritate the lining, and the skin in the nose starts to swell up. When it swells up, then you have a stuffy nose. When you have a stuffy nose, you can't breathe. When you can't breathe, you have postnasal drip because it's stuffy and it's trying to secrete fluids. You'll have a sore throat. You won't be able to hear. You'll have to constantly blow your nose or pop your ears out. So all this stuff is all because the filter hasn't been cleaned. So dry blowing won't be enough. So that's why I suggest nasal rinsing. All that just for I had to give a little bit of an intro. So this is a neti pot. If you've ever seen a neti pot in the pharmacy, this is kind of cool. So I call it an Aladdin's lamp for the nose. What you do with a neti pot is, it's just an empty pot. There's some of them made of ceramic too. Let me see if I can cover this up a little bit. It's too much light. There. So you see it a little better. This is just plastic. So what you're supposed to do is supposed to take salt, and here's one form of salt. You put the salt, about half of a teaspoon of salt, and it actually comes with its own little thing. Oops. Well, now it's on my carpet. So you just take this, you scoop out the salt, and then you put it in here. And then you add bottled water into here. You're not supposed to use tap water from your faucet, even if you live in a very clean area that has good water filter without that many chemicals, because of a report from the CDC that said a man in Louisiana died of having amoebic abscess in the sinuses, and then went to his brain. You know, that was only one report. I haven't seen any other reports. I haven't checked CDC lately, but because of that incident, they figured it was probably because he was using tap water to rinse his nose. I don't know how they figured that, but they must have. The CDC is very efficient with data collection. But you know what? I always mention this on my videos. That's spooky. If you have amoeba in the water that you drink or the water that you rinse your nose with, I feel sorry for the guy that died. But what about all the kids that are drinking water from the tap? That means all those kids are probably going to have amoeba too. So anyway, so you take this thing, you put the water in there, you stir it up, and then it's mixed in with salt, and you put it in one side, and then you lift. You have to be over a sink, obviously. You lift it up, you'll feel it drain. It'll actually go around. Your sinus cavity just goes from here to here, right? But I'll see if I can put a picture down below or link to my previous video on Stuffy Nose. I have an illustration from a computer. You put it in this side and it comes out this side. And it usually wets the hairs. So if you have all those hairs dangling from the lining of the nose, when you hit them with water, water will usually get those particulates and the mucus and rinse them out. So it's kind of like pressure washing your mold on your sidewalk. You'll get enough pressure, enough water to work its magic and erode not erode, but knock off all the small nooks and crannies, the mold that's in the nooks and crannies of the sidewalk. Same thing will be when you do this and you flush the stuff off of the hair. It works better. Then you can blow and force when everything's wet and lubricated. Force out snow, or you blow all the water out a couple times and it's dry. So you'd be better off that way. So the other option too, the other option is, if you don't like the classic neti pot, is this. This is, boy, there's a lot of reflection here. This is something I picked up at, I think it was Target. So this is just a spray and nothing fancy. I think I just did my other video and showed this. So if you look at the spray, it sends up, you can probably see that, sends off a little bit of a gentle stream. So what you do is you put it in here, one side, while you're sitting over the sink, and you just spray, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And even if you spray to the top of the nose or sinus passage where there's olfactory nerves, it still shouldn't hurt. It's such a gentle mist. It's just supposed to spray on top of the hair cells to get everything moist, and then you forcibly blow at that point. So when you blow your nose with the Kleenex and it's dry, you might miss some of those dried up or captured particulates that are on the hair cells. If you blow when you're moistened, it will plump up the hairs, it'll lubricate, get the mucus that's dried to lubricate again, and that particulate will easily come off. So that's the way I would do it, both sides too. So you spray one side, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and then 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000 over the sink, and then you blow your nose over the sink or in a tissue. It's up to you. And obviously rinse the boogers out of your sink after you're done because it looks nasty. So once you do that, then I would go with, I don't have my nasal crom, but instead of Flonase, I usually use something called nasal crom. Nasal crom is endocrinal sodium, and it's over the counter. It's hard to find it in the Jewel and Walgreens, but I get mine on Amazon. Works great. It's natural. I think it's called Quell, if I'm not mistaken. And it decreases mast cells or the allergic response. Pretty cool. You can't really overdose on it. Worst case scenario is you might get a bloody nose. This is something different. This is what I use instead of Flonase. So there, that. Hopefully you can read that. Nope. Well, it's ipratropium bromide, and when there you go. Yeah. So it's ipratropium bromide. And all you do with this, that's something that decreases swelling. It decreases it tightens up the blood vessels so the blood vessels don't leak. And if the blood vessels don't leak in your nose, that are next to the surface of where the hair cells are, then they won't swell up and cause the mast cell swelling that's allergic reaction to the little particulates. This is just 2 sprays each nostril, and you probably couldn't see that, but you do it after you clean out everything. So you do the rinsing first, and then you do the nasal spray, whether you pick, this is prescription, I think, and this is not addictive. So this one in particular you can use instead of using your, what's it called? Afrin. Afrin is just addictive. And I think it's a bad idea because usually Afrin will help you with swelling, but if you use it past 3 days, you won't be able to stop. You'll actually become more swollen. So I don't think it's a good idea. Sometimes if you're just going to try to open the nasal passage, if you're trying to kill off a bacteria with strep throat, trying to get the sinuses draining out after you take antibiotics or my herbals, I think it's important to have swelling decrease so that everything will leave. Sinuses are here, and 2 more in the back, and they all are blind pouches, and they all exit through the nasal passage and out the nostrils. So if the nostrils are all blocked up, then these sinuses won't decompress and they won't be able to send all the crap that's in there out. And if they can't, then you end up with a sinus headache. So that's why it's important to always rinse. Neti potting is, I've been doing it for a long time, since I became a yoga teacher. I think it was 2011, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's healthy. There's actually a practice in yoga where you do nasal breathing, and it's a nice idea to clean out the snot before you do your nasal breathing. Otherwise, when you do the breathing in the yoga class, you're gonna blow out snot, and that's kind of distracting. So hopefully this gives you an idea about what to do with allergy season. And listen, there's no downside to this. You don't get a bloody nose from this. I know some people just don't like putting things in their nose until they try it. Once they try it, because especially young people, they think it's kind of gross. But once you try it, and once you notice you snore less, you breathe easier, you have less allergies, hey, then you'll fall in love with it. But I'd say just give it a try instead of always using Claritin or Zyrtec or Benadryl. Those medicines are good, and sometimes they're important for allergy season, but if you can just get the crap out of your nose, you might not even need that stuff. So you can do it as often as 3 times a day. It's totally up to you, or just at night. I usually say at least try it at night, so you might have a better night's sleep, or your partner might have a better night's sleep because you're not snoring as much. But during allergy season, hey, if you have to, every hour. Again, no side effects. Now this Atrovent nasal spray, you cannot use you can only use 3 times a day, maybe 4 at the most. But this you can get a bloody nose with if you jam it in there too much or you overspray, because it decreases the swelling so much that you might get an erosion. But honestly, even if I have a boxer that just got beamed in the nose and he's got a bloody nose, this is treatment of choice. Hopefully this gives you a little idea. If you have any comments, put them down below. Otherwise